my opinion, they should stop the war immediately.
The security guarantees we want the United States be.
US President Donald Trump has reportedly turned up the heat on the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, telling him bluntly that he is out of options and has to agree to Russia's terms to end the war. And behind the scenes, if a Financial Times report is to be believed, their White House meeting turned tense and confrontational. Donald Trump allegedly pressed Zelensky to cede territory to Moscow as the price of peace, insisting that sacrificing land is the only way to stop the bloodshed. In fact, sources quoted by the news outlet claim the discussion spiraled into heated arguments, with Trump reportedly shouting and cursing at Volodymyr Zelensky. Members of the Ukrainian delegation reportedly left the meeting visibly disappointed, describing that encounter as chaotic and humiliating. During the meeting, Trump is said to have thrown maps of the Ukrainian front lines on the table, telling Zelensky to give up the entire Donbas region to Russia. The entire Donbas region to Russia. He also reportedly refused to provide Ukraine with Tomahawk missiles and floated the idea of offering security guarantees to both Kiev and Moscow, a proposal that reportedly stunned Ukrainian officials. And when asked by reporters about the alleged conversation, Donald Trump denied asking Zelensky to cede any territory. However, he added that the region should stay divided as it is. Listen to this.
No, we never discussed it. We think that what they should do is just stop at the lines where they are, the battle lines. You have a battle line right now. The rest is very tough to negotiate. If you're going to say, you take this, we take that, there's so many different permutations. So what I say is they should stop right now at the battle lines. Go home, stop killing people, and be done.
Trump and Putin are expected to meet in the Hungarian capital within weeks as part of Washington's new push for a peace deal. Despite diplomatic talks, Zelensky reiterated in a Telegram post that Putin cannot be stopped by words, only by strength. He emphasized that peace through strength remains Ukraine's guiding principle. On the battlefield, Ukrainian forces claim to have launched more than 80 drones and 2 projectiles targeting Russia's Belgorod region over the past 24 hours. Local authorities reported 2 civilian deaths after a drone struck the village of Yasny Zori. As the war continues, all eyes are now on the possible meeting of Trump and Putin in Budapest, one that could potentially reshape global alliances and redraw the map of Eastern Europe. The US seems to be turning up the heat on India once again, as President Trump has warned that New Delhi will continue to pay massive tariffs if it does not halt its purchases of Russian oil. Speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One, Trump said India will face steep economic penalties if it keeps buying crude from Moscow, framing it as a direct challenge to the ongoing US efforts to isolate Russia over its war in Ukraine. Here's what he said.
I spoke with Prime Minister Modi of India, and he said he's not going to be doing the Russian oil thing, so that's it.
But why would India say that they're not going to do?
I don't know, but if they want to say that, then they'll just continue to pay massive tariffs, and they don't want to do that.
In fact, his latest comments coming just days after he publicly claimed that India assured him that it would stop importing Russian oil. Trump's claims were immediately pushed back upon by New Delhi. India's Ministry of External Affairs, remember, firmly denied that any such conversation took place, stating it was not aware of any telephone call between the two leaders. The ministry also emphasized that India's top priority is to safeguard the interests of the Indian consumer.
On the question of whether there was a conversation or a telephone call between Prime Minister Modi and President Trump, I am not aware of any conversation yesterday between the two leaders.
Trade tensions between the two sides have escalated sharply in recent months after Washington doubled tariffs on Indian goods to, in fact, according to the US officials, nearly half of the tariff hikes are a direct response to India's ongoing oil trade with Russia. Washington arguing that such revenues help fund Russia's war efforts. India has defended its energy strategy, stating that it is diversifying sources to meet market demands. After Western nations reduced their imports from Russia, India emerged as the largest buyer of discounted Russian seaborne oil. Meanwhile, trade negotiations between the two sides are ongoing. An Indian delegation returned from Washington last week after holding what the officials described as congenial talks. However, there has been little indication of a breakthrough on the oil issue or on the steep tariffs that remain in place, with both countries navigating this complex mix of strategic, economic, geopolitical interests. It seems Trump's hardline obsession when it comes to Russian oil could continue to cast a long shadow over his relations with India. Shifting focus for now, tensions between Pakistan and Afghanistan over the long disputed Durand line have resurfaced during the ceasefire talks mediated by Qatar. The controversy began after Qatar, in its official statement announcing the truce, referred to it as a border between the two countries. This description has reportedly upset Afghan officials. In response, Qatar quickly issued a revised version of the statement, removing the reference to the word border. At the heart of the controversy is that 2,670-kilometer boundary established in 1893 between British India and Afghanistan. It was drawn by the British civil servant Henry Durand and Afghan ruler Abdur Rahman, and was a part of a strategic agreement during the era of the Great Game between British and Russia. And with the creation of Pakistan in 1947, the then newly formed state inherited this boundary, but ever since Afghanistan has refused to recognize it as an international border. It calls it a colonial imposition that divides ethnic Pashtun lands and undermines Afghan sovereignty. Pakistan treats it as its official and internationally recognized border. It has fortified the fence along the frontier in recent years. Afghan forces have repeatedly challenged this, leading to periodic flare-ups. And the latest round of clashes, which lasted over a week, marked the worst fighting between the two sides since the Taliban's return to power in 2021. While a ceasefire has now been brokered, no joint declaration was issued. Instead, Qatar first announced the truce, followed by separate confirmations from both Pakistan and Afghanistan. The controversy over wording in a peace statement once again underscoring just how deeply unresolved this issue remains and how it continues to shape the fragile and often tense relationship between the two sides. To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.